Beatport podcast.
Tommy47 came into the Beatport headquarters for a chat, and we started recording this podcast actually while I was setting up the mics and sorting out the sound levels, but he started to tell a story, so it starts off there. CEO of the label 47 and event promoter for the nights associated, including his new concept night, Numerology. He's got a killer album about to drop in April called Veer. The artistic evolution and rise of this enthusiastic and down-to-earth British-born Berlin-based producer and DJ is exciting and inspiring to watch and hear. He's also one half of the duo These Hidden Hands. So please, without further ado, enjoy a chat with myself, Tiger Light, and Tommy47.
Beatport podcast.
Check. Check one, check two.
Check two.
Corrupt FM. Do you know Corrupt FM?
I do know.
I used to be. The funny thing, I used to be on Corrupt FM when I was like 17.
Really?
But I didn't know it was the same one that's like that suddenly got famous.
I thought it was a joke.
That's what I thought, and then I was like, actually no, this guy actually went to my college as well. When I was playing drum and bass back in the day, yeah. And then when I saw it on TV, I was like, oh, is that the same one? Yeah, it is. And I was digging it up, and my friend from college was like, yeah, we went to school with him. It's really random. It's so far removed from what I do.
It was like a big sketch.
They turned it into that, but their background, they were
actual underground dudes.
Yeah, it was a legit station, and then somewhere along the line they decided to do kind of, I guess turn it into like a comedy thing.
Because when they're freestyling, like sometimes it's really good.
Yeah, that's because they are legit. Yeah. I could totally connect because at school we're the same, thinking we're rude boys with our hats, and I mean I haven't changed, but it's funny to see how big they've got.
Yeah, they're hilarious.
Yeah, but it's super away from what I'm doing now. I've still got the tapes because I had an MC as well. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I used to do drum and bass parties as well.
You were doing your A-levels then?
So when I went to Isha College, I was doing music, media and business. And then from there, I went to university and did music technology.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but it was when I was at college in Isha that I put on some drum and bass parties and stuff in the week on a Tuesday. And we got busted though, because we were under 18. And the owner thought we were over 18, and of course, and then we weren't. I think it was the bouncer that didn't let my friend in that we got busted. So.
Oh, okay. So you were putting it on under 18, and then.
I mean, it's for over 18 people, but the owner thought we were over 18, but we weren't, and then we got thrown out of our own party basically.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
And was
so
that
we did three, and it was called like Dawn of the Drums, and we did 3 parties and stopped. Obviously.
Dawn of the Drums. That's a good name.
It's a bit cheesy, but yeah.
Well,
for drum and bass, it works.
Yeah, totally. Did you have any interest back then in techno, or?
Yeah, for sure. Like that's been kind of on parallel. Like I kind of been into both since a young age. So probably the earliest point I got into dance music was around 10, because my cousin married a famous DJ in the UK, Judge Jules. I don't know people now will know who he is because he's kind of retired. He's working as a music lawyer now in the week. At that age, I was kind of thrusted into that scene a bit because he was giving me his mix CDs, and I was looking in the booklets at all the photos of all the crazy parties. So on that side, I was getting into like trance, techno, house, electro, everything, and then going into like secondary school, about 12, 13, we were all listening to jungle, UK garage, drum and bass. So it was just a big melting pot, really. I was just kind of just finding what I'm into.
Were you ahead of all your mates?
Yeah, I was bringing in tapes. I was bringing in like mixtapes, and they was like, "What is this?" I think there's one friend that was actually into what I was into, like in terms of techno. So it's like, and then everyone else is just drum and bass. So when I did get my decks, I was playing basically everything. And so there was this youth club that these guys used to come and set up their turntables, and that's when I learned to mix. And I was just playing UK garage, jungle, drum and bass.
So you learnt on vinyl?
Yeah. So I've been collecting vinyl since I was 14.
Wow.
Yeah, and then stopped when I was like 20 something. Yeah.
And were you collecting jungle back then, or also
techno
and house?
Yeah, I was going into like there's a record shop in Kingston that sell like house, techno, progressive house, trance. So I was going there to get like that stuff, and then slamming vinyl in Kingston to get garage and drum and bass. But Jules would give me massive stacks of his old records, like big piles of his old promos. So I was kind of sorted in that department. But I was too young to kind of play out. But it was when I got to Isha College that my media technician was a techno DJ in the squat scene. And we kind of got talking, and he kind of like introduced me to a few forums, and I guess it kind of led me down the path more into techno. And I was then making techno and showing him, and then my music teacher would come to the raves. I bumped into my music teacher at his rave.
Your teacher was a DJ at Squats?
So my media technician, so the guy who's kind of like helping the teacher, right? So he was like, helping us using the film editing software and stuff like that. He was a techno DJ in the squat scene, and
did he just drop it into conversation with you? Yeah, I'm playing it.
Yeah, I don't know if he got into it. Like when the teacher's not looking, we're just all going on like music forums and checking out what's going on in the scene. And
was
then
he young? What was
he was like 20 something. But so I went to one of his gigs in Brixton, and then looking on a dance floor, I was like, I recognise that person, and it was my music theory teacher. He teaches me at the college as well. So, and then we just kind of looked at each other. And you're like, okay, no one can know about this. Because then he's teaching on a Monday morning, we're both like pretty knackered in the face and, kind of laughing at each other because we know what we've been up to.
Was he a bit mashed?
Yeah, everyone was getting a bit mashed, but everyone was pretty presentable.
I bet he saw you and thought, oh God, no.
Yeah, yeah. But actually, we became good friends, and I actually went to his wedding last year.
Oh, wow.
With my music teacher. So, and he used to come to all my gigs as well, and his friends, so... It's quite funny.
So Isha, where is that?
Isha College is not far from Surbiton, Kingston.
Oh, okay.
So I was born in Kingston upon Thames.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're a Londoner?
Yeah, kind of southwest. It's kind of, you don't feel like you're living in London because it's very green. It's kind of like suburbia.
Okay.
So it's a nice area to grow up in.
Safe.
Yeah. Although you got lots of people thinking they're tough, they're gangs like Root Boys when you're a little kid. But,
were the squats in that area, or were they more in town?
They were more. Well, Brixton was the ones I went to, and the ones I went to, and where else? I can't remember. Like off some random motorway, off the A3, Chesington. I think there was some around there.
Before we started recording, you said, "Did I know Corrupt FM?"
Yeah.
So when you're at the youth club, you've got decks. You start collecting. Like, where does
the Corrupt FM came into when we were doing drum and bass parties at Isha College. So I was like 16. So I can't remember how we got the gig. Maybe like my MC friend got the contact. But so we went to Corrupt FM, which is like it's in the Cambridge estate. So basically, because it's a legal radio station, they have to hide and have to keep moving. There's like wars between different radio stations stealing each other's transmitters. And this particular spot was in someone's front room. That was it. And then you used to pay £10 every time you want to play. Yeah, it's a bit dodgy. And then all these radio stations would get busted by the police because they're trying to stop the pirate radio stations. Like Rinse FM now is legit, but it used to be a pirate radio station. And then we did Rampage FM, which was then like a corrugated metal box off the M25 in the woods somewhere that my dad drove me to, and then waited for us to do the gig and then drove us back. But they didn't last that long. It was just kind of like in the period of college, bit of fun. But yeah, drum and bass has totally always been quite a big influence, I think. I think now, because a lot of the techno I make is obviously quite broken. I think, I don't know why I was just drawn to that from a young age. So maybe it's a UK thing, If you live in the UK, you get like jungle, drum bass. It's kind of in your blood.
Yeah,
it's in the
100%.
DNA. I mean, it's UK,
yeah.
UK born.
So this is all going on, and you're playing in woods in corrugated iron boxes.
Yeah. And at the same time, I'm in college, and so this technology is showing me this forum of like this message board called Harder Faster, where everyone is at. That's where all the promoters are. That's where everyone's talking about the scene. And so that's really how I would network and try and find promoters to send my mix CDs to, right? So that's how I'd use that website to kind of get into the kind of house and techno scene. I didn't know really what I was doing, but I was just sending people demos. And then I would find out where the party is, take a train to London, hand over my mix CD, check out the party, come back home, send them an email, oh, did you check it out? And I just kept on doing that until a few got back to me.
And at this stage, you're just doing mixes, you're not making records?
Yeah, I was still making music then.
Okay.
Nothing had been signed.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just messing around with Reason, Orion, I think the program was. So I kind of they've always been parallel, like making music and DJing. I used to make my first music on a PlayStation, Music 2000. And Jules actually played one of the tracks when I was 15 on Radio 1.
Wow.
That was like my little 5 minutes of fame back then. So that was quite cool.
That you made on a PlayStation?
Yeah.
Okay.
He actually endorsed it. It was a legit program. Like, you could make your own riffs. You could sample like 20 seconds when you dropped a CD in. And then one promoter called Zoe Lee got back to me, and she was running like a kind of breakbeat house event. And I think she gave me my first paid gig. I think it was about £30, and I played in the back room of Hammersmith Palais. Play breakbeat, electro house, not techno in that gig. And then around the same time, I got another party got back to me called Twist, which was like a weekly after-hours party in Vauxhall at Fire Club. And this guy got back to me and said, "Yeah, bring your records and come to the club." It was like a Sunday. I think it was about like 11 or midday. So I thought, I'm just coming to the office just to say hi and check out the club. And then when I turned up there, the club's going off. It's like an after-hours party. So in room 1 was just like proper hard dance. And room 2 was like the kind of techno, electro, acid. So played a set, and I think for about an hour, 2 hours. And then after that, they asked me to be the residency. They brought me back into this like small room, and they're like, "So, you want to be a resident?"
Wow.
Yeah, pretty much on the spot.
And did you say yes straight away?
Pretty much. I'm pretty sure I did, because I was 17 as well, but they didn't know. So yeah, these first few gigs, I was like playing under the age of the entrance. And then so for about 2 years, this Twist became a residency, and also I was playing for another party, Zoe, who booked me first at Hammersmith Palais. So I had like 2 residencies. So kind of like, that's how, I guess, my training ground to learn to DJ.
And when that was going on, were you ringing up Uncle Jules? Like, hey.
Not really. Like,
Did he help you?
I never kind of used. I haven't even really mentioned it in interviews over the years, just because people kind of put you in a box or think, you only got there because of him. Not that he could, but I just had that in my head.
I don't think anyone would think that after all the output that you've had, everything you've done.
Yeah, I just never really mentioned it. Like, especially in the early days. It was kind of a different. He was playing trance. What I was doing was like trance, so it was a different scene. But when we had like family gatherings, of course, we discuss.
Able to give you good business advice, probably, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's a lawyer, so
that's very handy.
Yeah, exactly.
Does he check over your contracts now?
He can do. I was going to send him a publishing contract, so he could do. We don't have that much of a close relationship, but occasionally, like family gatherings, we meet up. Yeah.
Send him some more Kinder eggs and maybe get some more help.
Exactly. Vegan Kinder eggs.
Vegan Kinder eggs.
Yeah.
2007 was the first release, Acid.
Yeah, so that was so Proactive Records. That was a collaboration with the Ting, who was a resident at Fire Club.
Okay.
So she was playing like hard dance, and I was in room 2, known as like playing like electro techno stuff, and we did a collaboration. She came to my parents' house when they were out, and we did a track, and it was called like Industrial Machine. And yeah, Proactive signed that, and Paul, who runs that, now runs LWE, these events in London, and he was like a regular at Twist at Fire Club. It's funny how a lot of people from there have gone on, and I still see them in the scene, you know. So for 2 years I had the residency, and I took 1 year off after college and was just playing at Twist, and then I went to university at Thames Valley University in Ealing, and I think I kind of left the residency mid into my years at university.
You were studying music tech?
Yeah, just to focus on university. I was still playing in London. I was also playing for places like Red Light at Aquarium. Red Light was also an after party, but bit more like deep, minimal techno, stuff like that. And that was at Meet next door to Fabric. So yeah, there were loads of after parties back then. It was a big scene. And it was similar to Berlin a bit, because it was like mixed toilets, it was like gay, straight, mix, anything goes. So it was kind of similar to what it's like in Berlin a bit.
And when did you graduate?
2008.
Okay, wow. So you graduated and basically hopped on a plane to
Berlin.
Totally,
yeah.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, like, you know, so you weren't working full time as a.
I've never had a full time job. It's always, I mean, I've had like part time jobs when I was at college. I was working in a shop. I'd been a lifeguard when I was really young. My first job was I was a paper boy to get the money to buy records. Then I was working in the bar collecting glasses and stuff like that. So I've had like little jobs, but I've never had a full time job. Touch wood. But I think what's important for me is to be my own boss. So.
Well, you do have a full-time job now, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's 24/7.
More
it's
than
non-stop.
full-time.
Yeah.
With all the things you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, after university, the London scene was just a little bit stagnant. A bit like a lot of clubs are closed down, like the End, Turnmills. These were all places I was playing at. It was just a strange time. And my agent at the time was like, "Oh, you should check out Berlin." So I flew out on my own, stayed in a hostel. There's an event called Popcorn at Tresor. At that same time, I was starting to get people reaching out to me to release on their labels, because I also had launched a label whilst at being university called Shooting Elvis.
Yes.
That label was also the catalyst which spawned into people like Speedy J hitting me up on MySpace, Chris Liebing hitting me up on MySpace, both asking for me for music. So I had that in the back of my head that if I went to Berlin, at least I had some possible outlets to kind of release on. So, but yeah, when it came to 2009, January the 6th, I took the dive and moved over.
So when you came over for that first trip, you were all alone, and you went to Tresor on your own?
Yeah, went to a few clubs. I had a guy called Philip Hoffman who used to run Paul Proxy before it changed. He was doing he was helping with the label with press and stuff, so he introduced me to a few people, but I pretty much knew nobody, like, close. So I was just walking around, checking it out, doing a recce. The funny thing is it was I was staying at the first floor hostel, which is still there now, and I still was staying at that Keats, that area. My girlfriend has a coffee shop just up the road, so for me, that feels like my home, that pocket, even though I live in Prenzlauer. I mean, I live on the border of Friedrichshain and Prenzlauer, so I'm not a proper P-burger.
These are districts in Berlin for anyone that's listening. And
I mean, I first lived in Neukölln on Sonnenallee. So the funny thing is, I moved out with Alan, who I also met at university, who's also a really good friend of mine now, and he's a mastering engineer, and he also produces as Shards. I've released some of his stuff. And we also have a collaboration called These in Hands. Yeah, he was also like, didn't know what to do in his life. We just finished university, and he was up for the challenge of just coming out to Berlin as well. And we also wanted to do an album together. We had this like other plan of coming to Berlin and finding a warehouse and building a studio and doing an album, which we did. We did find a studio space, but the album came three years later. So that was my first ever apartment, and with Alan. And the funny thing is, the number was 147, Sonnenallee.
I was going to ask, where does Tommy 47 come from?
It doesn't come from that. I've had Tommy 47 since I was at school.
Where does it come from?
There's not really an interesting story, but when I was collecting records, my bedroom was just covered in posters and flyers. It was top to tail. And there was one poster that said 24/7, all is one word. And I was listening to, I think, Flex FM, like a pirate radio station. And I was thinking, I need a name. And I was just, take off 20. And I put Tommy and Tommy 47. Yeah, that sounds okay. And then I'd text into a pirate radio station and just, send a shout out to myself. It's quite sad, just to hear what it sounds like from someone's mouth. Just to hear it on the mic. And he was, and he did the shout out, and I said, that sounds okay. So. And then it started. That was
pretty
it.
Clever though, actually.
Yeah.
To hear it like broadcast and how does it sound? Does that sound stupid?
Yeah. So that was when I was at secondary school. So that was before Isha. I was 15. And when I played drum and bass, though, I switched to Electai. Don't know where I came up with that from. So I had like this name Electai for about 1 year with MC Rapid, and then I switched to Tommy 47 playing drum and bass as well. So there's a few mixtapes with me playing drum and bass with an MC. Going, shout out to Tommy 47, yada. Funny period, the early days. It's all mixed up, just finding your feet.
So when you came over here, you got your flat, and then did you guys find a studio?
Yeah, we were just walking around, as you do. And back then, that was 10 years ago, there was still a lot of open spaces, empty spaces. And we walked around this industrial estate near the train station, near to where we lived. And we were just asking who the owners were, like warehouses, and we spoke to one guy, and he was like, yeah, I have one warehouse available. Other people were kind of interested, and we just said we're super interested, and just rushed out and tried to draw out some money that we didn't have from credit cards, and gave them a massive deposit. I'm like, look, we'll take it. And it was really, really cheap for what it was. It was 75 meters squared, empty warehouse, part of an old aluminium factory. And what we did is we basically built 2 separate studios, room within a room. We put in a small kitchen, we put in a toilet. There's nothing there. Wow. We had people help with the plumbing and stuff like that. I mean, Alan is a bit of a genius when it comes to building and stuff like that. So he was kind of leading the way. We'd designed it in Google. We'd do a 3D design, and then got stuck in with that, and that became our base and my studio for about 5 years.
What happened to it?
We got kicked out 2 years ago. Though I left the studio 3 years ago when I got a new apartment, and I kind of missed having an apartment at home. I like that. I
studio at home?
Yeah, studio at home. That's an apartment at home. Yeah, I like having an apartment. It's handy. Yeah, I miss having a studio at home. That's how it always worked when I was really young. So just to step out of bed and get on with work. And basically the studio that we had in Neukölln there was no heating. There was no warm water. So it was Alan knocked down his studio and built it again with proper insulation, but I didn't do that, and so my studio was so cold. In the winter I was wearing 3 jackets,
that's not gonna make
5 pairs of trousers,
creative.
6 socks, so it's super cold, so it just wasn't that comfortable. It was cool to make lots of noise. There was no neighbours. It was like a proper industrial estate, and Alan had a drum kit. So to be creative, it was really cool. Alan was recording bands and stuff, and so we had mics tied into each room. Yeah, it was cool, but it just came to a point where I was like, no, I want to wake up and be warm.
Why did you guys get thrown out in the end? I
think they wanted to put the rent up. I think it was getting to the point there was mold growing on the windows, and I think we complained, and then the guy was just go. I can't remember. It's just by that point my studio was just a storage space. So I'm pretty sure the owner just wanted to put up the rent because I think now it's turned into a club. Where our studio is, there's about 3 dodgy clubs going on. So I shouldn't give the location, but
and Elaine, is
cool.
he still there?
No, he's moved. He's moved to a warmer
climate.
destination. Yeah, he's had enough of Berlin.
So he's not in Berlin at all
No,
anymore?
he's left, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've released 2 albums with that project. Now that he's away, are you still going to work on
we're working on a 3rd album, yeah. He came and visited me in January, and I'm going to go and visit him probably in the summertime. But normally we just work anyway via email. So we send sessions or stems backwards and forth. So he'll work on it, make some adjustments, send it back to me, I'll work on it. So it's kind of almost like remixing each other's work backwards and forth. And then when we come to a point that we're happy with what we've got, we'll then meet together and do the mixing or arrangement together. either in Berlin or where he is now.
What do you work on now? Which DAW?
Logic.
Logic. So you're
Yeah.
both on Logic?
No, he uses Reaper.
So you're sending stems back and forth?
Yeah,
Ah.
yeah. It would be much easier if we had the same.
This is what I was just, yeah.
Yeah, Reaper's really cool. Like he swears by it. I just haven't got around to putting my finger out and switching, just because of it's going to take a few weeks to adjust, and mentally, I've just put it off. But I think now I've finished my new album, that I think the next project or the next work I work on, I'll be happy to kind of like open up a new door.
Sorry.
Open up a new door.
Yeah.
I was thinking that Ableton 10 looks really cool as well.
Yeah, Ableton's.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm an Ableton fan.
Yeah, okay.
I was on Logic before. I think it's just really like wherever you find your creativity and where
The
where
workflow
it
looks
flows.
great in Ableton. And I use Ableton for live when I play with these in hands. I don't know the aesthetic. I've never been fond of the aesthetic, how it is, but I like the workflow looks cool. Reaper's nice because it's kind of like open source, so there's like, if you have ideas, you can put it forward, and even into coding, I think you can get involved. And the routing capabilities of Reaper is really vast.
Are you into coding?
No, absolutely
No.
not. No.
Not into the Matrix.
Exactly. Into the Matrix, but not into coding. So yeah, we're going to work on a new album. This
Awesome.
year.
And then where will you mix it? Where he is or where you are?
I don't know. Where he is really warm, so probably there.
Is it a secret location or did you?
He told me I can't tell anyone where he's gone now for some reason. I don't know why. It's warm and it's south.
Okay, wow.
A bit of mystery. Why not have a bit of drama in your life?
And is he working as a freelance engineer
Yeah, he's a
now,
freelance
as well
mod.
as your gigs?
Yeah, I mean, he's not really doing any full-time. I guess he's not really got like a career per se in like music, because he's not touring or anything like that. He's making a living from mastering, and he's really into other things like cycling, stuff like that, and
Sounds balanced.
yeah, I might have to do the same. I'm not sure I can put up with any more Berlin winters.
2009, 2010, you've just set up the studio. As you said, like Chris Liebing had written to you on MySpace.
Yeah, back then.
Back in
no
the day.
one probably knows what MySpace is. I had a release on Electric Deluxe, Speedy J's label, called Summer, and Chris did a remix of that. So then we started, we had a connection, and
Still via MySpace?
yeah, I think it probably moved to email by this point.
Upgrade.
Maybe. So after you kind of heard I moved to Berlin, I don't know what they thought, but they were really interested in me joining the crew, because at that point CLR was kind of going through a bit of a rebrand, if you like, and they were putting together like a crew and changing the whole aesthetic and identity of CLR a bit. They planned, which they did. They opened an office in Berlin, which is just around the corner from here. And I think one of the guys from the label just asked if I'd like to get involved more. And then, bizarrely, of course I agreed. It was great. I mean, an awesome opportunity. Sorry. And suddenly I found myself playing in Space in Ibiza, like I think 2009 or 10, not really knowing what I was doing. And I got banned from playing Space after that, which is quite funny.
Why?
Because I played techno, basically, and I played too hard, they thought.
So this was...
I learned a lot from that.
So this was via the connection from CLR, yeah?
Yeah, so basically, at that point, Chris had a party called Spin Club at Space. And I played after Guy Gerber and before Adam Beyer. And I played... Chris and I had worked on a new track called Bauhaus. So this must have been actually around 2009 or 10. Maybe it was 2009 because we hadn't released it yet. And my friends were in the crowd, and I wanted to show them this new track. And I don't know if anyone's heard Bauhaus, but like the A sides, it's pretty tough. It's pretty leery. It's got a big fat bass kick drum. And I played that as my last tune, which you shouldn't technically normally do. It's a bit rude because you should bring a set down, And I think I probably pissed a few people off. But apparently the owner was there and said, "This guy's never playing here again." So I got banned from Space.
Wow.
For essentially playing techno. It was quite funny.
And how was Adam Beyer? Was he scowling at you? Or?
I think he's still pissed off to this day, probably, yeah.
At least you didn't put any gabber on.
Exactly.
Could have been worse.
Yeah. But it was still going off, It was still a good moment. But what I do in Ibiza doesn't really mix anyway, I think.
And what did CLR think of that?
I don't know. I had a few discussions. I think they... Did
you get told off?
Not told off, but I can't remember how they broke it to me, but maybe they're laughing about it, because soon after, Spin Club kind of wound down. Anyway, I don't think they were laughing, but it wasn't. They didn't take it that serious.
Did it upset you at the time?
Yeah, I think so. I think it just woke me up to how things can quickly change. But I thought that was a bit over the top. I think something like that could only happen in Ibiza, where you suddenly get banned. I think the characters, the club owners in Ibiza are quite eccentric, and it's a different. In Ibiza, you're dealing with a whole different kind of scene and an atmosphere. It's run in a totally different way to the rest of how the world promotes their parties and stuff like that. I think there could be a gap in the market for some like cool underground like cave rave playing techno. And seeing how popular techno is now, I think the whole climate in Ibiza will change.
Maybe you could take a I can't say it.
Numerology
party out there.
I was always thinking like finding a cool location, maybe on like a secret island, and play some stuff. Be cool.
So after you got banned from this prestigious gig,
yeah,
then
tail between the legs.
Going
back to Berlin.
You're like, okay, I'll make it better by writing this amazing album called Primate. Is that how you made it up to them?
Yeah, I was also, Chris was really cool, and he was pushing me and taking me on his gigs in the early days, and I was kind of like essentially warming up for him, and for a couple of years, and he said, yeah, it'd be awesome to do an album as well, and he really just said, do whatever you want, and I did, and I kind of wrote that in Neukölln, and yeah, it was first ever album. Didn't really know what I was doing. Like, tracks were 8 minutes long. Like, looking back now, there's so many things I'd change, which I did change when I wrote the second album, which I'd learnt, like adding more dynamics to the arrangements, track length, trying to create like a narrative, and just trying to allow just trying to give the listener like a full experience. So if you listen from the start to the end, it's a journey. It's like a story. And because I think it's tricky with techno albums. It's like, are you going to listen to it or are you going to just play it in the club? Can you do both, or should you do one or the other? I don't know. So I did with Veer, the new album. It was an attempt to try and do both. More so, I guess I'm leaning more towards trying to like please the listener, keep them engaged, but whilst allowing the tracks to be able to have the tracks taken out of context and they stand up alone in a club. I don't know if I've achieved it, but
I think you have, definitely. There's a real soundtrack feel to it.
Yeah, it's really visual, and that's definitely something I kind of have in my mind when I'm writing. I just kind of lose myself and go to another world, and it helps to kind of like visualize an imaginary space. I'm not sure what it is, but it was definitely, I had this like, it felt like there's like, yeah, kind of a sci-fi thriller action.
Dystopian.
Yeah, dystopian. Dystopian goes hand in hand with techno, I think. It's a bit cliche, but it's the perfect kind of like visual.
With the track that you've released for everyone to hear right now, the 2084 or 2084, is that any relation to 1984 dystopia?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone got that, but obviously it's a bit obvious, yeah. Yeah, I'm playing with that idea, and the vocal, obviously it references like being a machine. Yeah, it's totally playing into that kind of sci-fi. But I mean, it's almost playing into how things are going with artificial intelligence and stuff like that.
On the press release of the album, it says that it is an exercise in confounding retro-futurism into today's future sound. I was just wondering if you could expand on this description for our listeners.
I think the sound palette can kind of be referenced a bit to like old sci-fi soundtracks, like the Terminator and stuff like that. So it's like kind of giving a nod to kind of retro sci-fi films, but with a futuristic approach to production. find it hard now to write straight up 4 to the floor techno. I mean, I've done it in the past and it's fun, but to do like a really straight beat is basically impossible these days. It's just, as soon as you just like break it up, it's like I'm personally way more engaged and into it.
I saw an interview you did for Electronic Beats, and on there you were saying about staying true to yourself as an artist and not going against that for the pay, for bigger gigs, you know, for the bigger festival gigs, like not compromising that.
Not following the money, I think I said something like that.
Yeah.
Like, I think it can happen to all artists where you come to a point and you have the pressure maybe by people around you that if you write a track like this, you're going to get more gigs. I think that's what I was referencing, like just be true, write music for you. A lot of DJs, I think, I don't know if they do it, but it feels like some people are writing music just for that track to get played by the people in the club, which it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, maybe you're missing out on some really cool creative ideas because you're permanently thinking, is this person going to play the track or not? Or will this track become like a festival hit and then I'm going to get more gigs? I think that's the wrong approach to making music.
This is why I was wondering in relation to you saying about, you know, the way that you love adding in those broken beats, like by not just sticking to 4 to the floor, or maybe, you know, being like, this is what I do, this is what it says on the tin, like promoters being like, he does techno.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever found that people have been advising you from the music industry, you should be, you know, more streamlined into one genre?
Yeah, I mean, luckily now not, because I do everything, I'm independent, that's my own label. I'm A&Ring myself, which is quite different. But like, I think in the early days, I was more, I had people around that maybe suggested things. I didn't really listen to them because otherwise Primate wouldn't have come out as it did. Because again, that was pretty uncompromising. But I think there have been voices that have been like, maybe don't be so experimental and maybe do this. And I think if you listen to those voices, you're just going down the wrong path. I don't think you have longevity because in the end I think you just be unhappy with what you're doing and maybe you quit. I don't know. With
the Primate album, you used a lot of field recordings. Did you in the new album as well?
Not so much, no, because I've already got like sounds all over the laptop like laying around. I just put in Finder like what I want.
That you've recorded, or?
Yeah, over the years, or just I don't mind now using like samples maybe in like Battery and then processing them from there. There's a few like cool, like I wanted like a machine gun sound and obviously I don't have a machine gun, or I wanted like a gunshot, I don't have a gun. So for those kind of sounds I'd go on like a free royalty site website and you download it. So someone's recorded a gun.
Freesound.org or something.
Yeah, there's a few like that. They're really cool and it saves you a lot of time. And you know, obviously it's not original because you haven't recorded that gunshot, but through processing and treatment, you can really make it your own. And then I'd use sounds like that for percussion, like layered under snares and stuff like that.
I run a sample pack label, and so my opinion about it is that like you can be the best or worst chef in the world and have the same ingredients, and using samples isn't cheating because I will burn everything in the kitchen, but I can make music. But other people will do the same thing with samples. Like, how do you feel if you know DJs use
I felt
samples?
like maybe I was more of a purist back in the day, like no sample packs, no, like just go and record everything. And now I don't really care if someone uses a sample pack because, like you said, it's more about the end result. It's what comes out the speakers.
How you put it together.
But at the same time, what I don't like is people taking a sound from like a sample pack and just not treating it, because then you haven't put your own stamp on it, you haven't produced it, you haven't put your own aesthetic onto it. And I think that's important to come up with your kind of like your process of treatment, which can give you your own identity. So yeah, if I take like a snare or like a kick from Native Instruments, then it's totally processed. So hopefully no one like would know that another person has used that same kick drum. Sometimes you can hear, like there's a few producers you can hear, oh, that's that kick drum, oh, that's that, oh, and there's like a few tracks with exactly the same kick drum. Particularly this like Berghain knocky kind of kick drum sound, which was like floating around a couple of years ago. I think that's a bit of a letdown to hear the same percussion elements sometimes. Obviously there's classics which have stood the test of time, like the 909, 808. I kind of don't get bored of the 909 ride if it's used creatively. Claps, I'm kind of against claps these days.
In all music.
Yeah, I just don't like claps on the 1, and 2, 3, 4. And
The claps on the 1 and 3 are definitely not allowed.
You know, it's just a bit of an obvious choice. I don't know. I like the 909 kick drum though. Is really cool for layering up. It gives a nice punch. It's still, I've got a 909 which is given to me from my old agency, and I've just sampled all the sounds because the sequencer doesn't work. Because apparently Jeff Mills, it got either he broke it or someone broke it. Like it fell down some stairs or it fell off the stage. So I have a broken 909 from Jeff Mills.
Okay, that's pretty epic.
Yeah, and he's get it repaired.
You should send him the bill.
Yeah.
So what setup did you use to make this album?
Logic, basically, and then a host of soft synths, and I've got a modular system set up. So a lot of the album was done on the road and at home. What I did a lot this time was using a lot of the Euroracks, like filters, delays, the reverbs, and just basically sent a lot of the stuff through from Logic into the modular system, and then was just jamming, and would record loads of different takes of the same pattern, and then I'd have maybe 15 variations, and then basically cut up all the audio to give the kind of the movement and variations and sound design and stuff like that. I did that a lot, and I became a bit obsessed. So if nothing was changing after like 8 bars, I was like, oh, I want to add some detail here. So some tracks like Feed, which was kind of the first track which set the tone.
Really got jungle.
Yeah,
vibes to
that's totally my. I think it's kind of. I was writing drum and bass back in the day on Reason. Nothing ever got released, but that's the first thing I put out that sounds drum and bass. It's 160 BPM, so it's a bit slow for modern D&B. But that track, last time I looked, it was over 100 channels. So loads of detail going on, like loads of different takes. I think that was the track I worked on the most, probably, and the other tracks came pretty fast. Like,
do you mix it all yourself?
Yeah, mix it down. Yeah.
You don't sit with a mix sound engineer at all.
No.
What about mastering? Do you send
mastering?
it off?
Alan does it. Yeah. So we either sit together.
So you sit in the mastering process too?
Yeah. Sometimes you do a stem mastering, which is quite useful. Like, so I'd bounce out rest of mix and kick, or if he's like, this sound kind of I could really do a better job if you just took out this sound and gave it to me separately. We'd do that. But it's normally only like kick and rest of mix, but it's quite handy to offer that.
Obviously, you've had the 2 albums with these hidden hands, but this is your second solo album.
Yeah.
And now you're in charge of like the marketing, and you're in charge of everything, and like you said, A&R, and giving yourself feedback, or like a slap around the head if you need to get back in the studio or whatever.
I have a couple of ears that are like my A&R
trusted, I
guess.
ears.
So Alan is one of those, and then another guy, Nick, is a good friend of mine. He used to DJ back in the day. We met because he booked me as a promoter, and we've become good friends. And also Stephanie, my girlfriend. Like, so those 3 are kind of my go-to ears that would kind of bounce off tracks to see what they think. I think it's really important for any kind of musician to have those trusted ears to get kind of some feedback. But everything else, I mean, I'm running the label myself. I do most of the day-to-day tasks. I have some people doing press for the album. I've got a distributor in Berlin and a digital distributor. But I like it. I like having the control. The
360.
Yeah, totally.
You prefer that from the first album?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a control freak, so I like having the independence, and it's a lot of pressure to juggle. I could do with an assistant for sure, especially now I've got lots of things to think about because I'm doing a lot of label parties. We've got a couple of record store events coming up. I'm doing also a party in Manchester, so I've got to kind of juggle all these things and remember to promote as well. So it's a lot.
And the promoting process, what do you have to do? What's your part in that?
Everything.
Oh, wow, so you're the booker.
Well, if we do like a 4/7 tour, it depends because we work with other promoters, so they'll take on the night and we'll kind of work together. But like the one in Manchester, that's kind of like a all-in. I'm doing everything basically. So these days, though, with social media, it's the positive side to social media is advertising an event. It's really way more easier than the old days of walking around the street with a flyer. and hoping people come. You couldn't really gauge what the level of excitement was or how many people are interested. So as much as like people hate on social media, there are some positives. And also if you think about doing a poster campaign, you spend a lot of money on poster campaign. You don't know who's going to read that or if that's going to be effective. But now with Facebook, you can really target your audience.
So you in charge of that as well?
Yeah. So the only time I kind of like think of this side is with the label, because I think I've got responsibility to promote my artists. So I don't mind having to invest in a bit of adverts on Facebook because I need to get their music out there. Like, I have no problem in that.
Talking about investing, how important was it for you to have your new album come out on vinyl, and it's coming out on double vinyl?
Yeah,
so for an independent label, that's quite a financial
totally. And I'm doing black vinyl, and there's a crystal clear vinyl version.
Wow. What was your thought process behind that?
The thing is with Primate, my first album, it never actually came out on a single, it never came out on vinyl actually. What they did, because they thought the vinyl scene was crashing. I don't know, it was a bit sad looking back that it never actually came out on vinyl, but what they did is they did each track became a single, and they released it that way. So this was the first time I've had my own solo album, tangible product. So I kind of, put a lot into it. A girl called Ritalino did the cover photography. She's based in Berlin, from Portugal. And then I was kind of overseeing every step of the way, like putting it together. So it's really important for me to kind of get this right. So I hope I'm actually after we speak, I'm going to go to my distributor and pick up the vinyl because it's just arrived, and check it out. Hopefully everything's in order. So let's see.
It's out on April the 5th?
Out on April the 5th, yep. Digital and vinyl.
So if you're listening, go and get it, because it's amazing. So it was really important for you to have something in your hand that, that you could feel that, like, this is my album.
That's why, as much as vinyl is, it's not really ideal, it's a bit of a disaster in terms of the environment, I guess, because, it's using a lot of plastic and oil. On the one, so there's two sides, you've got that negative aspect, but as a musician, as an artist, I mean, all my life, I've kind of like, the thought of having a vinyl to hold is your trophy. So to not have a vinyl for my album, it felt
incomplete.
Exactly, yeah.
Out on Tommy 47's new album, Veer, this is Feed.
Berlin and being a vegan? Have those two things happened? Do you think that's because of Berlin?
Yeah, totally, yeah. Because coming to Berlin, I was 22. I was living with my parents before. So it was really my first time stepping out into the world and just like discovering everything for myself, not being around my friends in my hometown, not having really any influence. So I think there's a period where I spent way too much time on Google and YouTube and was just like digging and came across, I think, one YouTube channel about veganism, and that kind of like planted the seed.
How long have you been a vegan now?
I think about 7 years, but it took a while. Like the seed was planted, and then step by step I was getting more into it, finding more information. It was, I think I called myself like a weekday vegan in the beginning, and on the weekends I kind of
ate kebabs.
Not that bad. Yeah, and then after a point, the kind of the switch completely flicked, and it was just like, yeah, this is no-brainer. I think I watched like a lot of documentaries. I think Earthlings, stuff like that, Forks Over Knives, these are all definitely go-tos. And I think it was Forks Over Knives was a documentary which I sent to Chris Liebing, and then he was like, I'm going vegan. And then from there, like the whole vegan concept kind of spread into the CLR crew, and step by step everyone was becoming vegan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you feel good about having had that impact?
I don't know if I feel good, but it's I think actually now a lot of people I know have turned vegan. Yeah, it's a great thing to see.
Do you think that Berlin is your forever home?
I'm not sure. I don't really plan too much in the future. I'm just going with the flow. I'd like to definitely spend more time in a warmer country between December and February. Otherwise, Berlin's fantastic. Like the summertime here is amazing. I love it.
And what about Brexit? How has that made you look at your life as an expat living in Europe and an artist living in Europe?
Yeah, I'm still confident and optimistic there's going to be a second referendum.
Please God.
So I've been here long enough that I could get a German passport. I think that's why I'm not really panicking, because of my German's pretty bad considering I've been here so long, but I think with a bit of extra studying I could get the B1 and get the passport. So I think that's why I've been a bit more relaxed about this whole Brexit thing. Yeah, like I said, I'm still optimistic there'll be a second referendum.
It's all going to be fine.
Yeah, it's all going to be fine.
It's all going to be fine. All right, I like that. I'm going to go with your view, because that's much more joyful than anything I'm reading in the newspapers.
I mean, it doesn't really feel like the UK was a part of Europe anyway. You know, so you always had to show your passport anyway when I went back to the UK. So it didn't really feel like it was within, European zone. But also, they stuck with their currency.
Maybe when this podcast is out, it's all fine.
Yeah.
Let's hope.
Yeah, let's hope.
You have a huge album tour coming up. Do you have any places that you're thinking, wow, okay, I can't wait to play there?
This weekend are two really cool gigs, because I'm playing all night long at Shelter in Amsterdam, which I really love that space. I played there a couple of times. It's really cool, because the DJ booth, you're really kind of with the crowd.
How long is your set?
Maybe 8 hours.
How do you prepare for that physically and mentally?
I'm kind of used to it by now, and sometimes I get booked for a 2-hour set and I end up playing longer, maybe for 4 or 5 hours, and then every time I get a longer set, I just remind myself, well, you just did that, you're in the zone and you just went with the flow. So I don't tend to kind of panic too much, but preparation definitely helps. Like I'll make a folder within Recordbox, and then there's multiple subgroups. I think just to be organised is really helpful, just to break down these genres and get familiar with the tracks. Then it's all cool.
And do you dance around the genres then when you play a set that long?
Yeah, totally. So I will start probably like the first hour playing ambient, and then start some really like slow tempo stuff, maybe around 80 BPM, 100 BPM, and just slowly take it up. Start deep and then build it up, and try and tell a decent story. I think if, just like any good club night, you don't want to walk in around midnight and there's a DJ smashing it out at like 140 BPM. Doesn't make sense. It ruins kind of the flow of the night. So definitely take that into consideration.
And on a practical level, do you get to go have breaks and go off and have a snack, have a sandwich?
No, not at all. So normally I'm prepared. Like I bring some smoothies, some decent like craft beer. I think the last time I did an all night long set was at Concrete, and I surprised myself because I went to the toilet once. And at Concrete, you can just run out the back of the. This is in Paris, and you can just run out the back of the boat and just do your business and run back in.
What, like into the river?
Yeah, no, on the side bit, side street. So it's handy, obviously, having a DJ booth with a toilet. and which is why, which was the next club I'm going to say, Berghain. They also have a toilet in the DJ booth. So, which I was going to say was another gig I'm looking forward to. But all of them I really am. But Berghain, it's been 2 years, so it's kind of a special gig because I really love playing there, and it's good to be back.
Your gigs with these hidden hands, you do a lot of visuals and you work on the visuals, and that's really part of, the whole experience.
Yeah.
What about this tour? What can people expect? Will there be visuals as well?
The tour, I mean, it's mainly me presenting, not necessarily like all the tracks in a club environment, but like taking on board the style and the aesthetic of the album and playing that in a kind of DJ set. So I'm still playing other people's music. I mean, it says a Veer album tour. It's kind of like the tour is celebrating that the album's coming out. Like, I'm not like for DJ gigs. I think visually, I'm super cool with just having really minimal lighting and some fog. That's fine for me. There's no like special visuals I've got for the album tour.
Do you feel like?
I hope that's not disappointing anyone.
No, not at all. I mean, some people love it and other people don't. Like sometimes I found when I've been at shows and there's been an amazing, visual, that people can end up gawping at that and not dancing that much.
Totally, yeah. It distracts. Definitely.
So I mean, I love a light show, but personally for me, I prefer some dim lights
old
and
school.
The music.
Just a strobe light and smoke machine is fine, and a small sweaty room with sweat dripping off the ceiling.
Yeah,
does the job. But like with the 4/7 shows, sometimes I have visuals. Like when I did the 4/7 label night in Amsterdam, ADE last year, we had visuals across a really wide screen, which was made just for that night. I think it depends on the location, really. You have to kind of work to that. Some promoters get in touch and they want to do their own visuals, and they've listened to the album, and there's kind of like a collaboration going on. Like I played last week in Revive Festival, and the VJ was also booked just for the set, so she made some stuff just for the album, which is cool. So I'm totally open to stuff like that.
out on Tommy 47's new album, Veer. Beatport podcast.
You were describing that you were building things up in Berlin and then you released the first album, and it sounded a bit like you were almost mentored by Chris from CLR. Was that okay then when you said like, hey uncle, I want to go and do my own thing?
I think I'd been at CLR for about 5 years, and I think at that point Chris decided actually anyway to freeze. CLR was frozen anyway, so it was kind of like a good point to go off and for everyone to kind of do their own thing. I don't think anyone should stay in one thing for too long. You know, I think it's always good to switch things up. And it was the right point to do that for me. I kind of missed. I knew what it felt like to have independence. I'm putting on parties before that in London, and I kind of missed that and decided to get back into that in Berlin and to be more part of the scene here as well, and to kind of, sounds cliche, but you know, to put something back. You know, if I've got something out of the scene, then it's good to kind of give some other people a bit of a, I don't know. It sounds really like condescending, so give you a leg up, but you know, like just get involved again.
I don't think it sounds condescending. You're building a platform for other people to put their music out. Like that's great.
So it's been cool.
Are you accepting demos if people are listening and they're huge fans of yours?
Yeah, unfortunately not. I'm super happy to listen to music. Like, you can get in touch. I'm super happy for you to email me music@tommy47.com. I try to listen to everything and give feedback. Sometimes it might take 4 weeks for me to get back to you, but I try my best, because I know how it feels like to send demos out and you're just waiting for that reply. Yes or no. You're just waiting for a reply. So I try my best. It's pretty intense though, to kind of keep up with emails and stuff, and it's a bit of a chore, but I have to, you know, I'm also super grateful to still be doing this, so it's important.
So just then when I said, are you accepting demos, you said no? How's that? So they can send you stuff for feedback, but you can't put it out?
I don't have a schedule, and I don't kind of. Also, the concept with the label was to kind of have a little bit of a crew, and also I think sticking with similar artists or the same artists helps you build your kind of identity. And I kind of like working with people that kind of, you know, everyone on the label is like a friend and we hang out. And I just don't really release enough. The release schedule just can't really fit in more music, basically. So I normally go to people anyway.
You handpick?
Yeah. How it is. Or people get in touch that are kind of already doing stuff. There's just not enough space. Sometimes I'm like, I really want to start a new label just to kind of facilitate all these cool demos.
You put compilations out?
Yeah.
Showcase compilations?
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe under numerology, I can't say this word.
Yeah, or even a new name, or even just like a digital-only label, or kind of like the concept of just doing a digital-only label. I don't know. We'll see. It's in the back of my mind.
Yeah. Well, it's very nice of you to say that you'll listen and give feedback to people, even though you're not going to get anything out of it, because it's literally just going to be for that person to grow.
But, you know, I might play it in the club, and sometimes I might suggest, you should check out this label, or if it's really cool, I might even just give it to another DJ or another label. Have some patience with the reply.
Referring to the Electronic Beats interview that I saw you on, you said that you were here to stay. You were here for the long haul.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you see yourself in like 5 years?
As I said before, I don't really like predicting the future, but hopefully still being authentic and still involved in the scene. I get a kick out of doing events, so there's definitely going to be more things coming down over the years. Like next year is the label 47 will be 5 years old, so I normally plan one year in advance. I kind of know what I want to do next year, but it's a secret. In 5 years, I will probably still be in Berlin, running the label, hopefully touring around the world, and staying true. There's not much more, but yeah.
Owning a tropical island, vegan tropical island, where you can go and escape the winter.
Maybe I'll open up like a vegan pub.
That does English roast.
I miss. That's one thing I miss is when I first moved here, I missed like a kind of an English pub with an open fire and some English beer, and so I'm kind of like feeling like I could do that in Berlin as well.
And someone that calls you mate or love when you walk in.
Yeah, exactly. Some baked beans. Obviously, everything would be vegan, so you'd have like vegan alternatives of
cool.
Maybe fish and chips and mushy peas and some pies. There's some really cool vegan pies out there, so that would obviously be there. And yeah, So maybe in 5 years, we'll be talking in my vegan pub.
Yes, that sounds epic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. I'll see you at the next gig, whoever's listening. And check out, all my dates are on tommy47.com. Full tour list there and links to various social media accounts.
And the album is out on April the 5th, Veer on 47. And make sure you go and get that. And thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Futurist.